Hey, what's up, Total Connects out there in High Vibes? In today's video, I just want to talk about we make things too well. I try not to. I don't make things complicated in my life, but people make things more complicated than they need to be. So basically, you know, so we have complicated things in life, right? That we could be making easier in life, but when you're still dealing with the mind and the ego, it still makes things complicated for you because it wants, you know, when you're dealing with the mind and the ego, it's still trying to entrap you in the mind. It's trying to end your body basically. So it wants things to be more complicated. It wants a certain answer or a certain thing to represent something. But when you get into your spirit, you see, it's not complicated. Some of these things in life aren't really complicated. It's just that we make things more complicated than it needs to be. Have you ever had someone tell you something that was probably really simple to say, or like you've tried to say something and you make it more complex than it needs to be, and that person doesn't understand, or you don't understand what they're trying to say because they make it super complex. But in all reality, these things are super, not complicated. They're actually really simple and very simple in life. So basically, we need to understand that not everything is as complicated as it seems. We need to understand that the way things have been manipulated and things have been programmed to seem more complicated than what they are. So once you start to understand that things aren't complicated as they are, that's when you can start to see things for what they are as well. There's certain levels to it. Once you can break through things that, instead of letting your ego think, oh, it's super complicated, I need some superficial answer that's, about all these algorithms and all these things, that are trying to explain something. But sometimes just a simple message just like this saying that things aren't as complicated as they seem. And if you just take the time to what does it mean if things aren't so complicated? You go and you sit and you meditate, you just calm yourself down and you just let the ego just kind of reside for a moment and put it down in its box, put the ego in its box where it's supposed to be and not let the ego out of the box so it just runs rampant everywhere. So basically, if you just allow yourself to clear your mind and allow yourself to see things that it's not complicated, everything is the way the agents they want you to think things are more complicated. That's why they create science to make things seem like it's all complicated, but it's not. In all reality, when it comes to spirit, it's not complicated. It's something that you just can't explain. It's just something your mind wants to make it complicated, your ego wants to make it complicated. And just understanding that simple concept that things aren't as complicated as what they are is going to help you out so much in life. If you look at life, it seems complicated, right? But it's only because you're not getting the certain information that you normally would if you're in tune with spirit. So that's why when you go into yourself, into that, part of who you are in your inner self, basically, you're going to start to understand that things aren't as complicated as they are. Things have been manipulated to seem that they're more complicated. Just like in a video game, some things seem really complicated, but say, you played video games a lot. This is a good example because, when you play video games, right, at first it's complicated. There's all these different things that you got to learn how to do, but the more you play and the more you actually practice, the more easy it is to solve certain puzzles. You get really good at playing, the video game, basically. You learn how to find different ways to, do certain things in the video game. You learn how to acquire different things, different tools, different weapons in the game, and it makes it easier, right? It makes it less complicated. So the same thing, you should understand, the same thing goes with your spirituality and how things aren't as complicated. See, when you tune into your spirit and you continuously put in that work for spirit, you are making things less complicated because when your mind's all flustered, and you're stressed out, nothing really makes sense. You have to tune into your spirit so that things, aren't as complicated. I'm saying complicated a lot. It seems complicated, but it's not complicated at the same time. It's a duality type of thing, though. There's yin and yang to it. If you're in the darkness and you're looking at the light and you think it's super complicated, but there's that little bit of darkness that you're not seeing inside that it's not at the same time, just like everything. There's duality, everything. Nothing's really complicated. It's just you're making it complicated on yourself, and you have to tune into your spirit. So once you reach a certain stage and you finally get what I'm saying, or you even get it right now, you'll be like, all right, things aren't as complicated what they seem. It's like, what does that really mean? If everything's not as complicated, because it's not. Life is simple. There's a reason why we have all these symbology things to give representation to things. It's just the mind is in the frustration, the viewpoint that everyone has is at a small degree, so they're not seeing things from that higher perspective. Because when you're in a low perspective, things are harder to see. things get harder to understand because your frequency and what you're supposed to see is harder. So everything seems more complicated, right? So when you tune in, your vibration gets higher. You start to understand spirit, and spirit flows through you. You start to understand, like, oh, it's not as complicated as what it seems, because I was in my body and my mind, and it was seemed so more complicated. But now when I'm flowing with spirit, that information that once seemed complicated isn't complicated, because it's not. The things that are here are supposed to be natural to us to understand and basically perceive and decode and even code to a certain degree, you know. Once you can tune into that, you're going to change your life a lot more, and it's going to help you, you know, tune in to a higher perspective and be able to start to not make things complicated, you know. Do you ever, like, let me guess, I'm pretty sure you've all, whoever watching this video, have made things complicated in their life, you know, more complicated than what they need to be. You know, it's like if you were like in a rush or something, and like you're putting stuff all around, and all of a sudden you had one thing over here and over there, and you're missing all these things, and all of a sudden you got this big mess, and it's all like, and you can't find something, and you made it more complicated than it needs to be. That's like your mind and your body and your ego basically getting you all in chaos and not having you really tune in. But all I want to say is, don't make things complicated. You know, things are a lot more simple than what they seem, you know, because these agents out here, they want to make you think that things are complicated because they design things to make it seem complicated, but it's not. You know, it's like this, when I say basically the secrets are hidden in plain sight. You know, it's all around us. You just have to tune into it and understand it, because it's made to seem complicated, but it's not, you know. And once you can understand that, you're going to start to see things from a higher perspective and start getting a lot more downloads than you previously were, and you're going to be like, wow, life is awesome. There's a lot more than all this. But yeah, that's all I want to say in this video. My full love to all those watching. Peace in and out. My full love, my gratitude, peace and out with my highest vibrations. Remember not to make things too complicated, because it really makes life a lot harder when things are complicated, and I'm pretty sure you understand that. So have vibes and live the simple life.